p.m. in Banka in the Upper Plateau Division, the West Region of Cameroon. Same time right here in Akwa Douala. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Our major stories tonight: opposition leaders Issa Chiruma Bakari and Bello Buba Magari are being urged to set aside their differences and form a coalition ahead of the October 12th presidential election. Despite their shared goal of ousting President Pobia, many Cameroonians are wondering what is stopping both of them from joining forces in order to better oust the president. And away from that, Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration, Paula Tanganji, warns against any actions or speeches that could possibly provoke disorder, violence, or chaos, that is before, during, or after the presidential elections, that is on the 12th of October 2025. He emphasized the importance of responsibility among all stakeholders in the electoral process. Those are top stories tonight. The news in full in a jiffy. If you're just joining us, then no, you are watching the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, and for presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. We begin this newscast in the northwest region, precisely in Bamenda, where the lifeless body of a man was discovered in his home and has left residents in a state of shock. Neighbors say he had not been seen for days, but no one checked until the odor of his decaying corpse drew their attention. Northwest Chief Correspondent Bustela has more.
The Army Rescue Unit today removed the body of a man whose only name we got as Precious, discovered lifeless inside his residence at the Ndimambo neighborhood in Bamenda 2. Neighbors say he had not been seen for several days, but in a town paralyzed by lockdown, no one dared to check earlier. This is not just the story of a man's passing, it is also the story of a community where fear has silenced the simple act of knocking on a neighbor's door. In normal times, his absence would have raised alarm, but with residents confined to their homes and movements restricted by separatist threats, his death went unnoticed until the order of decay forced action.
So it's my neighbor living behind me. So I went inside my kitchen and removed some food stuff. Upon coming out, I heard that and I had that scent. I perceived that scent. It was a very huge scent. So it was very abnormal to me. To my greatest surprise, when I got in front of his house, I saw flies, these big flies, at his window. That's what drew my attention, that something is wrong inside the house. So I alerted some neighbors at that moment, and they caught ahead immediately.
The removal of his remains by the Army Rescue Unit today offered closure, but also left behind a haunting question. How many other stories remain hidden behind locked doors? The man's lonely death is a painful reminder that the impact of restrictions extends beyond economic losses. It also erodes human connection and at times can cost life. At the time of this report, authorities are yet to confirm the cause of the death of the man who is allegedly in his late 30s.
Now we talk something else. A large stock of expired goods have been seized by officials of the Douala 1 Research Brigade. This was possible thanks to a complaint filed by one of the suspects against her business partner, who she claimed breached the agreement. Hidden behind the complaint was the truth of an organized business chain involving persons who buy and sell expired goods across Douala. More with Eselu Siliengu.
In the fight against the sale and circulation of contraband and expired goods in markets across Douala, security forces have seized a large stock of expired and repackaged goods intended for sale in markets. The network was dismantled by officials of the Douala 1 Research Brigade following information provided by a woman, Wago Marilyn, who, according to investigations, was also involved in the business.
Une plainte directe de Madame.
The Douala 1 Research Brigade received a complaint from a woman named Wago Marilyn, aged 31, against Dongfang Michel Joel for a breach of trust. In her complaint, she demanded a sum of 39 million francs CFA from her business partner. But when we received the file, we summoned the suspect, who never presented himself, and a warrant of arrest was filed. The complaint filed against Dongfa Michel facilitated its arrest at Kamsit Nyala on September 18, 2025 by elements of the Douala 1 Research Brigade.
Nous constatons que, bien évidemment, l'affaire que...
We noticed that the complaint of Wago Marilyn wasn't complete. It involves a vast network of people dealing in the sale of expired goods.
Personnes qui excellent dans le reconditionnement des denrées alimentaires périmées.
Senior Warrant Officer Mukala Bakot Paul Severin, commander of the Douala 1 Research Brigade, reveals that these goods were stored in unsanitary conditions.
L'un des suspects, le nommé Tagou René, a transformé son domicile au niveau du marché non glacé en un vaste stockage de ces produits alimentaires périmés, dans des conditions très insalubres.
Investigations also indicates that the business was an organized crime operation involving the purchase of expired food from supermarkets at low cost. Subsequently, gendarmes discovered another stock of repackaged expired goods in the non-glacé market neighborhood and at the residence of Pierre-Marie Tagou.
Une perquisition à son domicile a permis de...
During a search at his residence, we discovered unsealed buckets,
près de 30 cartons de cornflakes,
expired cans of milk, cans of mayonnaise, cartons of tomato cans, expired repackaged rice and pasta bags.
Dans des conditions très insalubres.
While the three individuals will be presented to competent authorities for final judgment, security forces call on the public to enhance cooperation with law enforcement officers.
The introduction of new coins by the Bank of Central African States since April 2, 2025 has brought about mixed feelings and confusion to many users here in the city of Douala. Traders, bike riders and passengers expressed their discomfort in using these coins. Details with our report on internship, Ego Fortune.
A bike passenger settles a bike rider less than the amount agreed due to similarity of the new coins. She is called back by the bike rider as she turns about to go. The bike rider calls her that she paid 150 francs instead of 200 francs. This is the situation faced by many Cameroonians since the circulation of the new coins introduced by the Bank of Central African States, BIAC. Traders, bike riders and passengers are complaining about the confusion they face with these new coins on a daily basis.
The problem with this new money that they have made is worrying us in the market. Even the customers that are buying from us, when we are giving them change, we give them 25, thinking that is 50.
A bike rider talks about his experience using these new coins. I have already been a victim many times of these new coins we are using. At times, when we notice the passenger has given us less than what we agreed, we tell them about it. In most cases, 25 francs and 50 francs are the center of non-differentiation. The new coins are good, but the color deceives us. If all the 25 coins had the gold color, it wouldn't have disturbed us. But now, it is identical to 50 francs, both in size and color, which disturbs us. Some think that maintaining the gold color for 25 francs and the silver color for 50 francs would have been better.
The 25 should be different from 50 because the 50 it seems like 25, the 25 it seems like 50. In color, they should make the color should be different because it's the same.
Most traders, bike riders and passengers are still in the process of learning how to distinguish these coins in order not to be victims. Meanwhile, Cameroonians are called upon to be more vigilant when dealing with these new coins.
Our reporter on internship, Ego Fortune, reporting there. Now we talk politics. Opposition presidential candidate Bello Buba Maigari has expressed his willingness and determination to reach a coalition understanding with Issa Chiroma Bakari and other opposition candidates ahead of the October 12 presidential election. Speaking on RFI, which is Radio France International, on Wednesday, he acknowledged that this is what Cameroonians who are hungry for change are desiring, thus pledged to relentlessly work to attain and achieved an acceptable consensus, as Innocent AZEH tells us.
UNDP national president and presidential candidate Bello Buba Maigari is not shutting the coalition door against FSNC presidential candidate Issa Chiroma Bakari as the October 12 presidential campaign draws closer. Speaking on Wednesday, September 24, on Radio France International on the subject, the former minister said he might reach an understanding with Issa Chiroma Bakari.
Une rencontre entre, oui, M. Issa Chiroma, mais également avec d'autres candidats aussi.
It is my wish, it is my determination to get a coalition for change with Issa Chiroma and other candidates highly expected by Cameroonians.
C'est mon souhait, c'est ma détermination pour laquelle je veux travailler.
Bello affirmed that unity remains a necessity over a fragmented opposition that risks dishing out another mandate to President Paul Biya. After carefully listening to calls from Professor Maurice Kamto and other UNDP militants, we hope to relaunch meetings of understanding among us beginning Thursday, September 25th. Things are being exploited and hope is not lost to advance and attain an acceptable consensus by many Cameroonians. The former ally of the CPDM and minister under the Biya regime acknowledged on Radio France International that the 2018 presidential election was characterized by massive frauds.
Donc il y a eu de la fraude en 2018, c'est ça?
Oui.
He wishes that the October 12, 2025 presidential election holds in total transparency and the right winner announced.
Non, nous voulons que les prochaines élections.
We wish for more freedom, transparency and independence of the election organizing body, ELECAM, throughout the process.
Établir les résultats et plus de liberté.
Few days to the official launch of campaigns, Bello Buba Maigari calls on other presidential candidates to figure out time for discussion and develop a common strategy that centers on opposition unity, whose destiny will rest in the hands of the population who yearn for change.
In the same vein, a wave of sympathy is sweeping through Adamawa, particularly in Gaundare, in support of candidate Issa Chiroma Bakari. A group of former supporters from the Bidu neighborhood who were previously affiliated with the NUDP opposition party have pledged their alliance to Chiroma's party. However, a pressing question remains: why can't the two challengers, that is Issa Chiroma Bakari and Bello Buba Maigari, form a coalition? Let's find out in this report done by Fomi Armstrong Sanda.
While public opinion in Cameroon increases questions on the absence of a coalition between Issa Chiroma Bakari and Bello Buba Maigari, NUDP turned FSNC party supporters in Gaundare in the Adama region say that the coalition has already been formed behind the FSNC national president Issa Chiroma Bakari.
Aujourd'hui, la coalition, elle est déjà faite. La coalition la plus importante, c'est la coalition du peuple.
Announcing their resignation and adhesion to the Cameroon National Salvation Front, the former NUDP party supporters and sympathizers say that the real coalition is decided by the base and not a group of 5 to 6 party officials on behalf of the party.
La coalition, c'est celle du peuple.
He continued that the people in their majority have made their choice to rally behind Issa Chiroma Bakari, who to them represents real change and transformation in Cameroon.
Issa Chiroma Bakari.
He presents Issa Chiroma Bakari and the Cameroon National Salvation Front political party as the right option to heal the wounds of political division in the Adama region and reunite families divided by a long-standing NUDP, CPDM political party rivalry.
De remettre donc cette solidarité familiale qu'il y avait.
Issa Chiroma Bakari had echoed this position during his Gaundare rally, when he openly declared himself as the president chosen by the people of Gaundare.
Gaundare a déjà choisi son président.
The supporters, mainly from the Bidu neighborhoods of the city of Ngaoundéré, promise a landslide victory for the Cameroon National Salvation Front ticket come the 12th of October 2025.
Now to one of our major lead stories, the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Tanganji, has warned against any action or speech that could provoke disorder, violence or chaos before, during or after the forthcoming presidential elections in Cameroon. Speaking in Douala today, he called for responsibility on the part of all stakeholders in the electoral process. Babla Jonathan has more.
We don't want to give the impression that after the 12th of October, the sky will fall on Cameroon. No.
Cameroon's Territorial Administration Minister Tanganji Paul dismisses fears and speculations of possible political unrest after the October 12, 2025 presidential election. Speaking during an evaluation meeting in Douala, Minister Tanganji Paul reiterated government's resolve to ensure a peaceful electoral process.
The State President Paul Biya has given firm instructions that the administrative authorities and the forces of law and order should take necessary measures for the presidential election to be held in a serene atmosphere, in total tranquility, in a hitch-free environment.
He tells all stakeholders of the electoral process to do everything within the ambit of the laws of the land and good moral conduct.
All the candidates have the moral obligation to avoid hate speech. They have to promote Republican values, national unity, peaceful coexistence, and they must, above all, avoid irresponsible public pronouncements.
The ministers also warned against unlawful and unorthodox behaviors that could jeopardize the peace and stability of the nation.
Avoid to make publicity on things which are detrimental to the state and to national cohesion. So the journalists, you have also this responsible part to play, because if you don't respect the law, you'll also be the customer of administrative authorities. Don't use the presidential as a pretext for any misconduct.
He reminds Cameroonians and all other persons living on the Cameroonian territory that any misconduct will be adequately dealt with.
And few weeks to the upcoming presidential elections, Brigadier General Kongwesi Divine Noko, commander of the 2nd January Legion, urges gendarmes and transporters to demonstrate vigilance and integrity. This statement was made during a meeting with representatives of the professional organizations in the transport sector. Cedric has the details.
During the 3rd session meeting on the exchange platform with representatives of socio-professional organizations in transport sector, Brigadier General Equinoxe Divine, commander of the 2nd Gendarmerie Legion, emphasized on the importance of public safety during the election period and called on transporters to demonstrate vigilance. The uncivil act of a good number of road users gives way to public disorder. Likewise, the compromising attitude of some of our agents has undermined the trust between union partners and police officers. All eyes are now on the presidential elections of October 12, 2025. You are invited not to let yourself be used by political parties for ulterior purposes. The Brigadier General, aware of the rehabilitation and development works underway in several strategic locations in the city of Douala, reaffirmed the commitment of the National Gendarmerie to strengthening enforcement measures to combat traffic congestions.
Counting on the Republican spirit, which you have always demonstrated, and your sense of discipline, a cardinal value that drives this forum towards excellence, I invite you to a frank and constructive debate within the legal framework of our nation, and that guides our activities.
An important meeting where several key stakeholders, including representatives from the Ministry of Transport and the Customs Administration, were present so as to find effective solutions to problems encountered on the ground.
It was very important because it came to invite customs in this platform to give certain solutions or explanation to the people working in the domain of transport, to explain what is the problem of the GPS, sometimes due to the fact that we don't have sufficient GPS and the demand is very high. The General Director of Customs have given a solution to use the stickers, so we come to inform the people of that domain that they can use the stickers in case of insufficiency of GPS.
Today, our transporter happy about the message where Chief of Sector Douane explained to we about the balise, sabot, many things where him explain. That's why we understand. He give you the railing line.
Several key resolutions were adopted during this meeting, including continued active involvement of carriers, unions, business leaders, and vehicle owners in driver education.
And that's it for this first part of the news. Talking Point comes up next. About 200 Cameroonians made up of children, women and young men who embarked on a perilous journey to Europe to seek better life but got stranded in northern Niger for more than 8 months are now wishing to return home. From a refugee camp where they sleep on the ground and in the open air, they sent a distress call to the Cameroonian government to help facilitate their return home to start a new constructive life. Meanwhile, following statistics published by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, Cameroon is the 4th world country with an exploding number of immigrants in Canada. About 10,000 Cameroonians are set to have migrated to Canada for 5 months. That is in the first semester of this year. And to answer our questions on this particular topic, we'll be receiving Cedric NGWA. He is an educationist and also an IT expert. Good evening. It's a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, and it's always a very, very great privilege to always be here at Equinoxe.
Cedric, you just got the statistics I just read earlier. What factors are driving Cameroonians to risk their lives migrating to Europe? We have a current case of 200 Cameroonians stranded in Niger while attempting to reach Europe.
I believe there are several factors, but if we want to talk about all of them, I mean, it could get into a whole book, so I think we should highlight the most important. I know there are important factors, and I don't want to undermine them. There are political factors which I don't want to undermine. However, I do believe that the primary cause is education, because if you asked about almost every other factor aside the political factor which causes people to travel, you're going to hear about unemployment, you're going to hear about poverty, you're going to hear about lack of access to several things. At the end of the day, if you do root cause analysis, you see that it comes down to education. So we are not very educated. And what do I mean by that? Because if we pick unemployment, for example, what makes you get employed? What makes you get employed is skills. It's not. It's just as simple as that. If you pick poverty, what makes you become poor? It's because you don't have something which can help you earn a living. If you speak of low standards of living, all of that comes down to education. And if people do get educated and they have the right education, they have the right skills, it's going to be very difficult for them to want to be flooding out. That's why we have many of our friends, for those who are working in, who are employed, working in so many of the primary industries within the country, many of them, they do not have any desire to want to travel. If they're traveling, it's for vacation. They're traveling to have fun. They're not traveling to search for greener pastures to the point where they have to be stranded in certain countries or they have to die on the sea. So at the end of the day, if we Cameroonians get the right education, we get the right skills, it'll be very easy for us to solve a lot of our problems.
Cedric, you claim a lot of Cameroonians are not educated, whereas we have hundreds of thousands of graduates who are unemployed. They have the skills, yet no available jobs. Isn't that a major problem?
No, these people are going to countries where the private sector is the primary employer. In Cameroon, the primary employer is the government, and that's a big problem. Now, you asked a very pertinent question. Unfortunately, our educational system here is a little bit towards the angle where you go to school and then you finish and then you try to look for a government job or a job in one of the few private sector enterprises. However, if we got the right skills in this country, in Italy, in Spain, in Germany, in the US, in Canada, where all these people are flooding to, the government employs just about 5%. The private sector is what employs. And why is that in Cameroon the biggest employer is the government? Because the citizens don't have the skills to be able to create the avenues where others are actually going to get employed. Okay, now we are in the era of the presidential elections. Almost every candidate who talks on social media anywhere highlights the importance of the private sector. Even the president of the republic, Pobia, when he spoke about farming, for example, and encouraged the youth to go into it, we were laughing. But we were laughing because we did not know that farming requires particular skills that if we get into it, we would actually progress. You have people whose dads have acres of lands and they are going to abandon the lands because they want to travel to Europe. Some even sell it because they don't have the right education to exploit these opportunities around them. You've spoken about people who have been to school and they've had the right qualifications, the right degrees. The degrees are not the qualifications. We need to find out what the private sector companies are looking for when they want to hire people, or what you, if yourself want to be a job, if you want to be an employer in the private sector, what are you going to be looking for when you want to get Cameroonians to be able to work with you? And at the end of the day, you need the skills, you need the education to be able to say, okay, I'm going to create this venture and this venture, like many Cameroonians who have decided to be courageous enough to stay and create those ventures. If we do not do this and we keep waiting on the government to provide all the opportunities, to be honest, we are not going to go anywhere.
But then, when the governance policies are not favorable, like the case of Cameroon where we have where corruption, embezzlement and bad governance is rife, shouldn't the government be blamed? And how can people starting their own businesses in Cameroon make ends meet when faced with numerous challenges like taxes and high rents that can make entrepreneurship very difficult?
All right, I think I'll emphasize one thing here again, education. We hear about people talking, we hear people talking about things online, on social media, and we just believe that that's what it is. To open a business in Cameroon is extremely easy. To cope with taxes is extremely easy. The tax system has been digitalized. How many people know that they can actually log into the tax system? How many people know what requirements? Those who say it's difficult to open a business, ask them what are the requirements to open a business. And in addition, the government is extremely lenient. You do not need to be existing. I always tell a lot of people, you don't need to exist legally to be able to run something, all right? You personally, on your own, with your skills in your bedroom, you can pick up your phone and open WhatsApp and do a lot. There are people who are using technology to do a lot. There are people in farms. Do you need to have a working business to be able to become a good farmer and sell your crops? No, you do not need that. There are so many things we can do without necessarily saying starting a business is difficult. It's very easy. The government has even simplified it for those who want to go formal. Starting a business, taking care of your taxes, and a lot of things are becoming digitalized in the country. We are just not educated enough. We are not informed enough to know these things. And the more we do not get informed, the more we'll think that it's only when we go abroad that we can make it. And when we go abroad, we'll see very similar systems to here in Cameroon. If you do not work hard abroad, you're not going to make it. And those who are abroad working extremely hard, if they work that hard here in Cameroon, they would have made it. Trust me, there is absolutely no difference. And again, not undermining several other factors which could make it a little bit more difficult here in Cameroon, but it's not easy in all those other countries. Ask those who are abroad there. They also have to work extremely hard.
Now, Cedric, I've had time to discuss with some entrepreneurs on this platform, and they say running a business in Cameroon can be extremely hard. According to them, the first 2 years could be the most difficult for them, given that they have to pay several taxes. What do you have to say about this?
Actually, we should not confuse the government's policies with the implementation of the policies by the people on ground. So, for example, we have law enforcement officers, we have taxation officers, we have a lot of people who are responsible for implementing the government's policies. If you read the government's policies, you understand the policies, you understand the law, it's extremely lenient. The discrepancy comes at the implementation. And is the implementation being done by the government? No, it's being done by Cameroonians like you and I. Our cousins, our sisters, our aunts, our uncles, they work in the taxation, they work in the police force, they work in all of these places. They are the ones who come and they abuse the law. They are the ones who come and abuse the regulations that the government has set up to be able to make a thriving business. It's not the government, it's us. We are the ones. By the time you step out, maybe your sister, your brother, those watching us, some of them are working in these places that the government has put them. And they are the ones implementing the policies wrongly, taking advantage of people who do not understand the tax system to say that you're supposed to pay more exorbitantly than you're supposed to pay. It's not the government's fault. It is all our fault. Why? Because we lack education. We do not take our time to sit and learn and understand what are the laws, what are the policies, what is the possibility for me to get this skill, what are the skills I need to be able to start a business or to be able to get employed, how do I actually stand in front of an employer and convince them, all of this is education, and we lack it.
Cedric Chair NGWA, educationist and IT expert based right here in the city of Douala. Thank you so much for your time. And that's what put a cap to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Stay in the company of interesting programs on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now.